So the joint venture between PepsiCo and Suntory, a Japanese company, he came and said, hey, everything is down. You're sitting on your chair. What the hell are you doing, right? When are the system going to come back on? And then I was like a deer. Words by Dale Carnegie, I am not okay, you are not okay. It's a better situation than I am not okay, you are okay. I mean, this book is about lessons that I have learned. Some good, which one should actually follow and do. Some not so good, but all these are from leaders and people I've worked with. Artificial intelligence cannot replicate your head, cannot replicate your experience, cannot replicate your feelings, cannot replicate how you interact with individuals. In your career, if there is a dilemma in front of you, right, you are at a fork and there is a shortcut to doing things and there is the right but longer way of getting it done, choose that longer way because your credibility depends on it.
Hello and welcome. And this is a very, very special edition of HT Smartcast Spotlight. Because my research tells me there are lots of letters. There's prominent organizations like the Tata Group, GE, Reckitt Benckiser, Pepsi. There's also acronyms like CFO, Chief Financial Officer, VP, Vice President. But the man that we have next to me is a man who has 30 years of experience shoehorning wonderful numbers and success into the rectangle of an Excel sheet. But in his heart, he's always wanted the fluidity of words. And those words have come out in a new book, which is called The Career Edge. Mr. Kaushik Mitra is here with us, Vice President and CFO of PepsiCo. But more importantly, an author whose heart has finally started to beat for the right words. Mr. Mitra, an absolute honor to have you on HT Smartcast Spotlight. Let's begin with the fact that occupying the highest echelons of the corporate ladder, and you looked down and you decided that it was worth a book. Do tell us about that.
You know what? Like heard you introducing me. I've heard so many introductions, but that was a fantastic and creative way of doing the introduction. So I couldn't have done it better myself. No, thank you, Sarthak, and I'm very, very happy to be here. And you said it right. I always had a love for words, and I got stuck in a career juggling numbers. I got used to it. I started loving it. It wasn't love when I started, but fell in love with it, like most relationships. But words is really my true passion, and that's what gets the best out of me. So, I think the inspiration for this book came from some realization that after so many years, if I look back at my education, what have I really got? Okay, yes, we had some degrees, but if I look at the education system in India, it's honestly a process of filtration, right? What are you really learning, which helps you cope with and succeed in life? And that's what this book is all about. It's about not about theory, and it is about lessons learned the hard way. And when I say lessons, a lot of people talk about success. And what you will find in this book is a lot of failures. And what do you learn from failures? It talks about something called employeeship. There's a lot of literature and a lot of management theory on leadership. But nobody's talking about the 95% of people in an organization. What is their role? And how that links with the performance of the organization. So I've got 10 tenets of employeeship, which is something which you would put on a mirror and look at it every day. So this is really a way of giving back to all the folks who are either starting off or different phases of their career, who are trying to figure out what does it really take and what really happens in the corporate world. And this book is not about theoretical frameworks. This book is not about technical stuff, but it is about things which really matter, which will help you build a long-term successful career.
So there's also the fact that we haven't yet told you the name of the book. It's called The Career Edge, The Unwritten Rules of Success, available online and brick and mortar stores in case you want to pick it up after that wonderful little introduction that Kaushik has given us. Uh, Sir, it's also a fact that, while you were talking about success and the way to see it, and that very, very important yet double-edged word called failure. There were two quotes that popped into my head. One, of course, was Mark Twain, who said, "Never let school interfere with your education." And the second was Anton Chekhov, a famous playwright, who said that I might not be a very big success, but oh, the stories that I could tell you about my failures. Um, I think increasingly in this world, we're being told in Instagram reels and 60-second stories about how to succeed, but nobody is really teaching us about how to dust our knees once we fall on them. How important is a failure, and more importantly, are we talking about enough about dealing with it?
You know, uh, let me give you an example. And mm, I worked in different parts of the world, and one fine day, I was in office in Gurgaon, and I got a call from my boss saying there's a good role in Vietnam. I think you should take it. My first reaction was, where is that on the map? Let me just open the atlas and look at it. Second was pick up the phone and talk to my wife, and she said, "Are you serious? Ho Chi Minh City?"
Yeah.
And but I landed up in Ho Chi Minh City, a new country, a new city. Uh, I was excited, great opportunity. And a week into the job, when my family had not moved, and I was just trying to find my feet, a very different culture, as you can imagine. And the head of IT, who reported into me, came to me and said, "The systems have all shut down because there's been some virus in which has been planted. Nobody knows who did that." And my first reaction was, "Okay, go fix it." Typically, like we do in India, right? It's your job, go fix it. He says, "I've never faced, and as a local Vietnamese person, that I've never faced a situation like this. I think you need to help fix it." Within 5 minutes, my boss, this was a joint venture between PepsiCo and Suntory, a Japanese company, he came and said, "Hey, everything is down. You're sitting on your chair. What the hell are you doing?" Right? When the system will come back on. And then I was like a deer caught in the headlights in the middle of the road in a new country. And I was thinking, oh shucks, why is this happening to me? God, why, what did I do to deserve this, right? So I felt like a victim. And I was like that for a good day. I couldn't sleep at night. I thought of calling my wife when she had her own issues, son of giving a CSC exam, etc. So I didn't want to trouble her. And something dawned in the morning. Clarity emerges in the darkest hour, as they say. So something dawned in my head, and I grabbed my coffee and reached office early. And I sat in my chair, and then I realized, I don't know whether you see the Die Hard movies.
Yes.
If you're a fan of Bruce Willis in the Die Hard movie, there is this thing called about, if nobody is going to do it, then you are the man. You are the person. You are that thing dawned that, hey, nothing's going to happen.
You're that.
Unless you are that person and you are in that position.
Absolutely.
So I moved from what I call the victim mindset to something more neutral. Karna kya hai? And that, I think, is a big, shift. And then lo and behold, I called some of my Indian colleagues in other companies, and they were also in senior positions. And they said, "Guess what? We are also in the same position. It's not only you, everything is down." So I said, "Wow, okay." Famous words by Dale Carnegie. I am not okay. You are not okay. It's a better situation than
I'm not okay.
See, you are
Okay.
oh god. So so I'm not going into the details, but that gave me some more courage of conviction. And then within a couple of days, I realized it was an opportunity to actually get the systems back on before others could. So,
Sure.
of course, this is, I would say, life throws you these curveballs,
Yeah.
and how you deal with them is what happens in your head. No education can teach you that.
That's fantastic, because it also reminds me that you have straggled generations. I'm not meaning to make you sound old, because a lot of people forget that a very, very important synonym to old is timeless. Uh,
Thank you for that.
but we come from an analog generation. We didn't really hesitate in picking out the phone and asking someone. urban isolation is becoming something that's very, very, current, so to speak. In this book, you talk about the unwritten rules of success. While I don't know if you'll agree or not, but to me, it seems like we're living in a templated world. Everything needs to fit into neat little boxes. But learnings never are they? Is that a challenge?
Yeah, I think real learning happens when you have people around you. For example, for me, this book is about lessons that I have learned, some good, which one should actually follow and do, some not so good, but all these are from leaders and people I've worked with. And I think the greatest lessons for success in the corporate world is not in a book. And I tell you why not, because what has our education system taught me? I'm very happy for the qualifications I have, great badges, MBA and CA and all that sound good. Entry to the, of course, to the playing area. But then what happens in the playing area is all about practice, and it's about really doing it. So back to in this book, there is an entire section, and the book is in actually four parts. The first part is how do you develop yourself. The second part is I think the most endearing and the most important, in my experience, is how do you work with people, and that's at the heart of what you were just asking. You cannot replicate artificial intelligence, cannot replicate your head, cannot replicate your experience, cannot replicate your feelings, cannot replicate how you interact with individuals. And as we go forward, that is all that will remain. Because guess what? Knowledge in our times, we had to look at our parents for knowledge. There was no Google, there was no WhatsApp, there was no, communication, and knowledge was. And today, I think we have an overload of that. So we've come from, and I've come from a generation which was, you know, knowledge paucity to too much. You're getting exploded and bombarded. So today not about it's not about finding the answers. It's about asking the right questions.
But do you think that this assault of information that we are going through has desensitized us to knowledge, has made us less sensitive to acquiring it?
I think so, because you need to have a certain discipline in your mind in terms of what are you seeking. We are scrolling throughout the day, right? I have this conversation with my wife, and she is a chef and she has a blog, and she's obviously quite hooked onto social media and things like that. How much is where to draw the line? What content do I view? In what form do I view? Right? Today, that discipline, I think most of us are lacking. So we are in this, as you say, template. So it's like, think about it. You have a phone beside you, and I've seen people behave like this. Let's say you're in an airport, or you are in a bus going to the aircraft. Let's say you are in a pregnant pause where people are just, waiting for some event to happen. Everybody's on the phone. Yeah. And why is that? So this addiction, I think, needs to stop. And that's where you would be able to discipline the mind. So if you go back to conditioning of the mind, which really is the first step of purposefully seeking out knowledge. So this has to stop first.
Also,
Yeah, sorry, go.
I also think that, success, the parameters that we had have changed, because now I think, with the advent of the primacy of technology, so to speak, success is as much conquest of technology as it is conquest of the hurdles that are so human to us, is it not?
Yeah. Yes and no, Sarthak. I think, and I talk about, let's say my domain, which is, let's say finance, right? I think future CFOs, they need to be a bit of, folks who know their stuff, but that is table stakes, right? It's going to be knowing the core is heart is going to be about how do you develop those leadership skills? How do you develop influencing skills? And I have an entire chapter which talks about, and this is a very, very important thing I have realized in the corporate world, actually in every sphere of life. We are always influencing. This conversation is also a process of influencing each other every moment, right? So I'm trying to influence my son to do something, and he's giving me some counter logic. And we are simply, let's say, having a conversation as where to go out for dinner. That's also a process of influence. You're trying to convince your board for investment. That's also a process of influence.
Completely.
How do you influence? And it all boils down to, why should people listen to you? What's your credibility? What's your ethos? Right? Authenticity plays a big role in that. So logic, of course, everybody gets, right. The Indians are obviously very, very strong on logic. We sometimes overdo that. But I think the most powerful tool is something called emotional connect. That's what binds people together. That's what builds trust. That's what breaks down barriers, and that's what gets things executed fast in a corporate setup. So, how much time are we really spending on that one? How does one do that? And that the machines can't do that.
Yeah.
It's the humans. And I have seen in corporate life, a simple thing, 100 emails, and you are CC'd on all those emails. You're watching this tennis match going on, and then you wish you were at Wimbledon, but
Yes.
so when is this going to stop? And then you pick up the phone and you speak to somebody and done. So things happen at the speed of trust, right? That's what Stephen Covey said. I've seen it. It's real life. So that's about humans. Nothing to do with knowledge, nothing to do with technology. This will stay tomorrow. This is there today. And this is a very, very important aspect.
It's very, very heartening to see a corporate leader who, sports the badge, whose brass nameplate reads CFO, talking about the human aspect when everyone is telling us that AI is going to be taking over. It's very heartening. And the fact that we're talking about a book, the book, by the way, is called The Career Edge, The Unwritten Rules of Success. Kaushik Mitra is here with us. It'd be lovely to know the process, because I thought it'd be a very cool segue, because you were talking about time, to management of time, because I think MBAs are great at that. And you have many degrees to prove that you're good at it. And now you have literal proof about a book that is about 300 pages. There are two parts to my question. One, how was the time managed between your decidedly very important responsibilities and your heart? And two, what was your process of writing?
I'll start on a lighter note. My HR folks are always wondering, what the hell is happening with this guy? Is he really working? So yeah. So that the it's a labor of love, Sarthak. That's the way I would say. And I've seen in professional life, r- mm, if you want to maintain your own balance, if you want to nourish yourself, because at the end of the day, a leadership job is all about giving at the highest level. How do you bring your best self to work? It also depends on how you feel every day getting out of bed. Not always will work give you that. You need to find other channels of stimuli. I mean, think of it like a graphic equalizer. You and me share the passion for music.
Absolutely.
If you just bump up the treble, it's going to sound jarry, right? So you need to have all the things. Writing is that for me. It is just the process of sheer putting words on a piece of paper, not on a piece of paper anymore. Now you're gonna,
Of course.
type it out. That gives me joy. So I don't see it as a time management thing. I see it as a way of balancing myself. I see it as a way of bringing my best self to work. It's hard explaining this to HR.
Yes, of course.
But people see that, and particularly for senior leaders, I think this is very important. Find your passion, and there is no excuse for pursuing your passion. That's going to make you a better, spouse, a better human being, a better professional, a better leader. People will see you in a much more.
Mr. Mitra, your 6 Ds of execution framework is a big highlight of the book. Could you walk us through it with a real world example of your career?
No, that's I think it all boils down to ultimately, how do you get things done? And before I dive into the 6 Ds, my framework has been, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of debate, there are a lot of choices, etc. But at the end of it, everything should get distilled into karna kya hai. It's like as powerful as they're all as well. 3 words, karna kya hai. And we grapple with that, right? And the 6 Ds is all about that. How do you really get things done? And people who are able to get things done, leaders who are able to get their teams to get things done, because leadership, you're kind of not playing on the field, you're on the bench as a coach, but still you need to execute, right? It's about drive for results. It's about discipline. It's about decision making. It's about doing things the right way. It's about delegation. And I'll give an example of how it comes together in corporate life. And let's say direction. Sorry, I missed the 60 was direction. Take direction, for example. And, there was this uh, Australian motivational speaker who talked about what can we learn as leaders from what those tribal chiefs had done in the past. And he said three things. The tribal chiefs, they greeted with intent, they lit the fire every day, and they forgave with ease. Just lighting the fire every day is direction setting, is context setting. That is the leader's job. And we need to do that every day.
Sure.
Let's say we are in this FMCG business, right? We make food and beverages. And we have seen over the last year or so, and maybe a little bit more, that the customer landscape is changing significantly. A lot of the business used to go through the kirana, the what we call the traditional trade, but e-commerce is becoming a very, very fast, growing channel, and therefore we had to build that muscle and build that capability ourselves to be able to cater to customers and consumers on that channel. That is setting direction. You're having a high phase of inflation. How do you manage your price mix and your revenue model and tailor that when inflation is high? How do you go after volume when inflation is tapered down and then it's all about unit growth? So this setting direction is very, very important, and it keeps changing, and that is critical to strategy, because strategy is about doing the right thing, not doing the wrong thing right. So that's one. The other thing which is very close to my heart is doing it the right way. Okay, because as a CFO, I've been on compliance and ethics committees across the world. And one lesson that I've learned is there is no shortcut for success. And I have seen brilliant leaders, right? Sometimes miss that big picture, right? So it can make the difference between a career with fantastic potential or walking out the door if you make that wrong choice. So my advice to everybody who's watching this is, in your career, if there is a dilemma in front of you, right? You are at a fork and there is a shortcut to doing things and there is the right but longer way of getting it done. Choose that longer way, because your credibility depends on it. And at the end of the day, that's the kind of legacy that you want to leave behind. And that's a very important, I would say, integrity is 100% or nothing, right? And there is no compromise. The truth will catch up. You are what you are in an empty room where nobody is watching you.
Absolutely.
Right. So discipline is the other aspect which I think today, because of the infinite choices you have, becomes an issue for leaders and management. I have seen a lot of leaders grapple between 5 choices and wanting to do all 5 things, but you cannot resource all 5 things. So the thing is about making the choice, and sometimes it's about that okay to fail mental frame, which makes the difference. Taking a decision is better than not taking a decision. Indecision is probably the worst failure that one can have, and so some examples of those I have shared. But the most powerful one that I would leave everybody with is the one on ethics and integrity. And as a CFO, again, I can tell you, it is supremely important. It is like the oxygen.
Which also brings me to a very important thing, that sometimes what happens is that passion becomes a comfort zone. And everyone says we should be out of our comfort zone. I'm a big advocate of staying in comfort zones so that the pins and needles of work sort of, get a little counteracted, so to speak. Was this also a little bit of a pressure valve for you while you were writing?
It is. I mean, it is a pressure valve, honestly. And I have the same thing with music, right?
You play the guitar?
I play the guitar. We had a band in college, and then dropped everything because of pursuit of life, and then picked it up in my mid-40s again. But these are like medicine for me. Hard day at work, use of the left brain, and we forget sometimes that most of the brain actually is the right brain. That's a larger part of the brain we don't. You guys get to use it. I mean, in your career, I wish I could do what you do for a living, the creative side, but uh, it helps you balance. And for me, after a long day, sitting down with my guitar and belting out a couple of numbers is better than a pill to soothe me.
And it's okay to do that. It's okay to disconnect from work because we are held in guilt from time to time.
I'll tell you. I'll talk about this guilt and this is a little bit of what we do in India to ourselves. Okay, and I spent some time outside, and when I was in my initial 10 years in India, or maybe 15 years in India, I mean, I was working, burning the midnight oil. I used to live in a place called Garden Estate, which is in Gurgaon. Office was just across the road. Guess what? Finish dinner, come back again to office because yeah. So and then I realized, and then my wife used to tell me, you're watching your son like this. He pretty, and he's here, but you don't see him when he's actually, vertical. And that realization dawned on me when I went up. When I went to Dubai and I was working with a team which was very, very diverse. Somebody from Turkey, somebody from China, somebody from Lebanon. They were not willing to turn off the lights at night. And so they valued their time. So sometimes we do it to ourselves. Smart work is not about, the longest, who's the last person leaving the office.
Yeah.
And today, I think we have embraced that a lot in India. And every time I come back and I see that we have moved forward and process and practices are helping it. Clothing books used to be like, night outs in the factories and things like that. Of course. Today, everything is done by somebody else and you have results on day one. I'm just talking from a finance point of view. Things are moving forward. But it comes back again to the leader because culture begins at the top and everybody is watching the boss. So when I came back after my first stint, I made sure that I switch off. 5:36, I'm out of the place so that others also don't need to,
Follow by example.
follow. Absolutely. And it's not that work is not getting done. Plus, you're balancing yourself back to that other point we were discussing. Otherwise, after 10 hours, law of diminishing return starts applying. I mean, you are not giving your best and it's just doesn't make sense, right? Absolutely. You rather spend some recharge time with the family and maybe there are certain things important things to
Absolutely.
do that, right?
I think some very, very considered food for thought for all of us to chew on. But are you a solitary writer? I mean, do you write for yourself? Do you take, opinions from people who are important to you?
I have some sounding boards. I mean, I do bounce off thoughts, but I think the initial thinking, writing also is it's funny because the best ideas come to you when we are least prepared. You are in a public place, you're watching something, and the idea comes. I also write fiction, by the way, so I've got 2 fiction novels also. So ideas come to you at any time, and most innocuous times. So my son gifted me with this digital pad. I'm extremely disorganized, so I used to keep losing all my notes, and so now at least I have one place where I can scribble down my thoughts. And I realize with age, you tend to lose your thoughts. 10 minutes ago, and you remember something, you saw something, but you can't remember. So it starts with noting down stuff. Right, ideas, moments, situations. A conversation can be a story. I mean, you can be a character in a book later on, right? There is no true fiction. I mean, it's a little bit of things and so, but it's 5% inspiration, 95% hard work and perspiration. This book, for example, although this is close to my heart and its subject matter and things like that, and I always thought this would be easy. It took 5 years.
Wow. But there's also the fact that, learnings are very, very precious. Everyone sort of has equated them to children. But sometimes there are children of a lesser god who have to be left out. So were there any anecdotes, any lessons that you had to sort of leave out even though it hurt you? Were there things that are not in the book that you would have liked to be in the book?
Look, I mean, there will always be there will always be stuff which you certain things obviously you want to leave out for maybe a second book which may come down the line.
Of course.
But I think this book is more about it's more about three simple things, which is how do you have, let's say, a mind like a learner. And I'll tease out a few topics from the book which I feel very close to, and I think which is very important for everybody who's in professional life wanting to make a successful career. Uh, don't focus on initially the job, the designation, the salary, the money, and all that. I also did that. I mean, we all go through that process, right? We are needy, greedy human beings, always wanting to. Second thing, the career is a long distance race. There's no point sprinting. You will fall flat, right? And there's always going to be somebody ahead of you, somebody behind you. So pace yourself. So the focus should be on how do you develop yourself. And I think one of the very powerful themes I've learned over the years is what the Japanese call soshing. And I've worked with a lot of Japanese in my role in Vietnam. And this is a unique concept which says having a mind like a child. So the question to ask yourself, when was the last time you did something for the first time? You'll be surprised.
Absolutely.
You said comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So
Everything is incremental now. I think the joy of discovery in that sense is progressively harder to find.
and you know what, Sarthak, when as you accumulate knowledge, you also accumulate baggage.
Yes.
It's like we moved so many cities. Every time there's a debate, and my wife wants to move everything because there is emotional attachment to a piece of furniture we bought in a particular shop, and then we realize that that's some the apartment in Hong Kong may not be so big, so can't keep everything, right? Put it in a go down, and then you've forgotten about it for years. So
Absolutely.
so it's about also letting go. So this learning, relearning, the concept of adaptability is so important to that. I don't know why they don't teach that as a course,
Absolutely.
in our institutes.
Right? I couldn't
It
agree
is
more.
so important. And
Absolutely.
the adaptability quotient and its correlation to success is very, very high. The other thing today, I think, particularly in the Indian system, because of the process of filtration, right? Brilliance is overrated. If you think of all the toppers in your school and colleges and figure out where they are, and maybe you prefer, I mean, a lot of people would have, defining success. Okay, let's say compared to others, right? We have many, many, many examples of folks who are like, we never, those guys. Oh, really? This guy is, doing well in life. How the hell did that happen? Right? So
It's true.
So brilliance is overrated. I think what is very important today is resilience. Because compared to the earlier simpler, structured world, predictable world, today we are living in a VUCA world. So you are going to get those curved balls.
Yeah.
What happens in your mind at the example that I gave from Vietnam? I've got so many examples, and I'm sure you talk to anybody, he or she will have such examples.
For sure.
How do you condition your mind to move from a victim to what's the opportunity and karna kya hai and move on, right? And be the person, be the person,
Be the man.
be the
man.
be the person as in Dayak. That's important. So this is not stuff that they teach you in school, right?
Absolute.
And I think trust is the cornerstone of getting things done in the corporate world. And how do you build that trust? There is no science. It's a person to person thing. I look at it as, whenever you get into a new job, so I got into 20 different roles. Every time it's been a different place, different set of stakeholders, culture is very different. Actually sit down and put down on a piece of paper who my customers are.
Absolutely.
Who am I working with? And then start intentionally depositing trust accounts, trust money into accounts.
Yes.
And then review it after, I have this 30, 60, 90-day thing, and then review it after 90 days. Guess what? That's a surefire way of settling into a new job and, building that equity. And that trust then translates into that emotional connect, which then makes things happen. So a lot of the times in corporate world, we spend on deciding. And that's a process of influencing. There's a lot of conflict in that. If you have high trust and if you have that emotional connect, you can really make things happen with speed. And I've seen it goes to team dynamics as well, right?
Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. The other aspect which I have learned over the years is when you start, it's individual. The focus is on individual brilliance, individual performance, me, and me. And then you realize somewhere, I don't know, in the middle, it's about how do I get everybody around me?
For sure.
Take others along with you.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, when you get into a leadership job, then it's all about how you get the best out of the folks who are with you, right? And today there's a little bit of, sometimes I've seen leadership insecurity. Am I comfortable or uncomfortable having somebody who's smarter than me, maybe more knowledgeable, you know? And I think those leaders, they miss the big picture.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful to see words like trust, resilience, the human connect, getting everyone together, coming out of the mind of someone who's led one of the biggest conglomerates in the world. Kaushik Mitra, Vice President and CFO of PepsiCo, has written a book called The Career Edge, The Unwritten Rules of Success, which have come out uh, of hard experience, of hitting the pavement from time to time, but getting up, dusting the knees, and then telling everyone how it's done. If you want to know more, well, you just have to buy the book. It's online and in brick and mortar stores. But for being so generous with the experience that I'm sure it's taken a long and arduous journey to accumulate. We'd like to thank you very much and for giving us hope in the form of the printed word, even more so. Kaushik Mitra, thank you very much for joining us on HT Smartcast Spotlight.
Thank you very much, Sarthak. It's been a pleasure and lovely to be on the podcast and hope the viewers benefit from the conversation that we had.
Tell us.
Lovely.
I mean, opinions. Everyone's got two. Why don't you spend one in the comment section? Like, subscribe. It's important to us because validation, man. I mean, creative people live for validation. So think of it as your good deed of the day. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you had some food for thought to chew on and a little bit of learning. Thank you for watching.